everyone! Today I am doing a really fun collaboration with my friend Dani. She has such an amazing, underrated channel. She does a lot of project pans, she does palette of the week, she does palette bingos, she does a lot of experimental fun makeup looks, and she's drop dead gorgeous. So I will of course have her channel linked down below. Please go and check her out. We are going to be doing some fun villainess makeup looks. So we were talking about what we wanted to do together and we were like, drag makeup? Or maybe sort of villain makeup. And ultimately we stuck with the villains. So go check out Dani's channel and see what villainess she is pulling inspiration from. For me, I'm pulling inspiration from Lady Tremaine, the Wicked Stepmother from Cinderella, but not the animated Disney version. Now, a lot of Disney villainesses have very specific looks, and this is not a recreation of a look. I'm just pulling inspiration from somewhere and I'm coming up with my own thing, and I have a rough idea of what I'm going to do. So my inspiration is coming from the 1997 live action version of Cinderella, which is the best version of Cinderella ever. I will fight you on this because this is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is the Cinderella with Brandy, with Whoopi Goldberg, with Whitney Houston, with Bernadette Peters as the Wicked Stepmother. So that is where I'm pulling my inspiration from. I used to have this movie on VHS. I think I still have it somewhere, and I would just watch it over and over and over again. I just loved it so much, and I love the music, and I just think the cast is perfect, and it was just always my favorite thing. And I am pulling inspiration from the scene where the stepmother is singing Falling in Love with Love, and she is wearing this gorgeous green and pink dress. Now, in the movie, this particular version of the stepmother has very, very simple makeup, which I think is sort of true to the late 90s. I noticed sort of a similar aesthetic with that movie, with sort of stuff like the Flintstones, stuff that came out around the same time. And oftentimes you see villainesses with very specific makeup looks. It tends to be very, very dramatic, usually very over the top. Sometimes it's a little bit simpler, like when Cate Blanchett played the Wicked Stepmother, she had very simple classic makeup and a really bold red lip. And oftentimes you see the bold red lip on sort of a Wicked character like that, especially in contrast with like Cinderella, who would be very neutral, very, you know, soft and pretty. Because the princesses are always supposed to be so innocent and sweet and just naturally beautiful. And where the wicked, evil queens or stepmothers or whatever have to kind of work at it a little bit more, and it tends to be very put on. So I just first put on a mattifying primer. This is one from Boscia. This is the Perfecting White Charcoal Mattifying Treatment Primer. So I just had a little sample of this. I hadn't used it for a while, and I wanted something that was going to super suck all the moisture out of my skin. It's been 100% humidity here, and it's been disgusting, and I've just like been oilier than I've ever been in my whole life. Just this last 2 days, it's been so gross. I can't wait for this to pass. So I am going to go for villain eyebrows. So anyway, as I said, I'm going to take inspiration from the scene in the movie with that dress, just because I want to use those colors. So I'm going to do a pink lip and I'm going to do a green eye. And this is just, I want to keep it simple. I don't want to go too elaborate with it. I think that's one of the interesting things about the makeup with villainesses in general is it's very strong, it's very striking, but it's not very elaborate. Like, you almost have like editorial villainesses, and then you have like the no makeup like Glossier girls or the princesses. It's so funny. So I shaved off the ends of my eyebrows a week ago, 2 weeks ago, somewhere around that. It's starting to grow back a little bit. I shaved off a little bit more just today. I'm trying to get a tiny bit back over here just to make drawing on a little bit easier for daily. But I've been just enjoying playing around with stuff. So I'm going to give myself a super dramatic brow. Not because the stepmother had a super dramatic brow. She had a very thin brow, like in most cases where I looked at. She had this a very simple, kind of plucked, lightly filled in brow. I'm doing this first because I'm going to end up cleaning it up with concealer afterwards. I kind of despise a little bit how we're always supposed to hate the villains when sometimes they have, you know, the most interesting stories. I've always been drawn to them, and as a little theater kid, I've always wanted to play the villains. I'm always drawn to like the bad characters. I've always liked playing sort of the nasty roles because it's not who I am, and it's just so much fun to be that. So I sculpted out my drawn-on brows just a little bit with the Too Faced concealer, and I'm just gonna blend it out a little bit, the concealer, just because that'll make it easier to blend into the foundation afterwards. Alright, so there we have my villain brows. I wanted them thick and heavy. So for my eyeshadow, I am going to use the Viseart Editorial Brights palette because I feel like that has the best combination of things for me. So I'm going to mix the greens together in this palette. And so the first thing I'm doing is just roughly putting some shadow all over my lid, mostly just getting a feel for it. I want a crease brush. So I'm mostly just using this shade right here right now, and I want it, the green, right up to the brow bone. And I'm applying it with this fluffy crease brush. This is a Wayne Goss 18. And I am trying to keep it fairly blended. Just doing the little circle motions. Bringing it high up against the brow and keeping it blown out. So before I continue on with the rest of my eyes, I need to do the base makeup. So I've got some red spots. I'm going to color correct. I feel like villains generally have pretty flawless bases. It's one of those interesting things you notice when you start looking at makeup for different characters. I feel like unless the villain is being portrayed in a certain way, they tend to have pretty flawless faces. I'm going to use the Too Faced Born This Way foundation because this is a pretty full coverage foundation and it has a pretty good finish that I feel like will sit well on top of the matte primer and keep everything very mattified, which is what I want. The thing I really like about the Wicked Stepmother and why I've always sort of been drawn to her as the sort of character is because she's fairly strong and she's very smart and she knows what she's doing and she is really in like a non-magical world. I mean, Cinderella is the exception. She experiences the magic. The magic is not all around. I don't think that the stepmother hates Cinderella at all, but she's merely putting her children first, you know. Is it right? No. But she is thinking about herself because, you know, she had been in a relationship before and presumably her husband died and she had to figure out how to survive, so she had to marry out of necessity, not out of love. And she chose a man who could provide for her and her daughters. And then when he unexpectedly dies, she's left responsible for not only her daughters, but for his as well, being Cinderella. You know, she wanted her daughters to marry well. She wanted them to have the best things because she wanted to be taken care of too. And she was going to achieve that by whatever means possible. And sometimes I just feel like the characters we're supposed to root for are a little bit weaker, you know. I feel like someone like Cinderella doesn't really do a whole lot, and it's not saying she doesn't deserve a good life or deserve all the happiness in the world, but the princesses, they are kind of bland, I find. Like, the ones that you hear about all the time, like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, they're just boring. You know, they don't really do much. They kind of wait to be rescued. And that's why the villains are so much more interesting, because while they're evil, they are getting stuff done, you know? They're not sitting back and waiting for stuff to happen for them. They're not waiting for other people to do the work. They are doing it, which, you know, I think there's admirable aspects to that. Doesn't mean that they're good people. They're fictional after all, but, you know, I think that there's admirable aspects there anyway. I just used a little cream contour. It was an Anastasia contour stick. I'm gonna put a little mascara on first before I dive into the rest. I kind of want to keep everything very, very simple. Ah, great. I'm gonna put lashes on first because I definitely think this is a lashy look. But yes, so, you know, there's good and there's bad things. I always related more to the villain characters, like when I was watching Disney movies and stuff, because I never felt like the princess. I never had that kind of luck. I never had those sort of skills or that sort of natural princess beauty. I was always somebody who had to work for everything I got, so that's why I think I relate to the villains a little bit more. And like I said, being a theater person, they're more fun to play, in my opinion. You know, people might like the bigger parts, but I always like the smaller parts if it meant I got to be a little wicked. So one of my goals I would love to play that character. I would love to play that character. I haven't done acting in years, but it's always still kind of there in the back of my mind. Like, it would be something that would be so fun to do in some way. For blush, I didn't want to use highlight for this look, but I thought I would use the Physicians Formula Butter Blush in Natural Glow, because that way I could get a little tiny bit of a flush and a tiny bit of a highlight as well without too much, because I know it's weird for me not to do highlight, but I just don't feel like it goes with this look. I'm waiting for some lash glue to dry for the lashes before I figure out exactly what I do with the lower lash line. So I will put the lipstick on first. I'm going to use a Jilted Lip Liner by Urban Decay. And then for lipstick, I'm going to use the Ciate London Liquid Velvet. This is in Head Over Heels. Alright, so I have the lipstick on and I put the lashes on. So I really think this came together very well. I just need a tiny bit of green for the lower lash line. I don't think I need too much. Alright, so that is everything for the makeup look. I do feel like I need a very dramatic wig for this because it's just fun, kind of the complete look. I feel like it doesn't feel complete right now, but I really like my interpretation of the Wicked Stepmother. I think that this is something a little bit different. Might look a little bit more sort of Wicked Witch of the West, but I think that's just all the green for my color inspiration, but I feel like this is definitely still a very villainous color scheme. So the pink wig is an option for very big dramatic hair. I kind of feel like the ringlets a little bit just because of how Bernadette Peters' hair is. Okay, so this is turning into more of a wig playtime. One more wig I want to try. I just ended up going with the brown curly wig because I feel like it's kind of close-ish, or the closest to Bernadette Peters' hair in the movie, because my red wig just was too red. So anyway, this is my completed look. This was just a lot of fun, and I'm very thankful to Dani for collabing with me. Don't forget to check out Dani's channel. Please go and show her some love and let her know that Elle sent you. And thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I really truly appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns down below, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Bye for now.